Several of the best mixed martial artists the world has ever seen in terms of strength per unit have held the UFC Middleweight Title. The undisputed middleweight strap has been owned by 10 different boxers since it was first established in 2001. This episode will examine this coveted title in further detail, as well as the 11 men who have had the distinction of wearing it around their waists. As always, if you appreciate the video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. Let's now, without further ado, examine each middleweight champion in UFC history. Number 1. Dave Manette. The UFC Middleweight Championship has been held by its fair share of legends. That said, the inaugural title holder is a somewhat forgotten fighter by the name of Dave Manette. Manette is a former college wrestler out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, who has notable victories over veterans like Chris Lytle and former UFC welterweight champ Carlos Newton. At UFC 33, a card that Dana White frequently cites as the worst in the organization's history, the Minnesota native took on Gil Castillo to decide the inaugural middleweight champion. That evening, every fight went the distance, including Manette versus Castillo. When the dust finally settled, Dave Manette had become the UFC's first middleweight king. However, his reign would be fairly brief. In September of 2001, the newly crowned champ would attempt to defend his title at UFC 35 against Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace Maro Bustamante. The contest concluded with Bustamante earning an early second-round TKO victory to become the second man to hold middleweight gold. In total, Dave Manette's inaugural title run lasted 105 days. Number 2. Maro Bustamante. Having earned a black belt under the legendary Carlson Gracie, Maro Bustamante would become a world jiu-jitsu champion in 1999. The Gracie protege's elite grappling served him well during a mixed martial arts career full of ups and downs. Like his predecessor, Dave Manette, Bustamante's time as middleweight champ was relatively short. The Brazilian's only title defense took place at UFC 37 in 2002. His opponent would be former Olympic wrestler Matt Lindland. Despite Lindland's grappling pedigree, Bustamante managed to secure a guillotine choke in the third round to retain his title. From there, he unceremoniously vacated the championship after signing with the UFC's rival promotion, Pride. Officially, Maro Bustamante was a UFC middleweight champion for 267 days. Number 3. Edan Tanner. The late great Edan Tanner took part in several memorable bouts while also picking up victories over former title challenger Elvis Sinasek and eventual welterweight champ Ruthless Robbie Lawler. After remaining vacant for over 3 years, the UFC decided it was time to get the middleweight title back in circulation. The men who would compete for the vacant strap would be Tanner and David the Soul Assassin Terrell at UFC 51. That night, Edan Tanner took his opponent to the mat and overwhelmed him with several big shots, forcing the referee to stop the action near the end of the first round. With the win, Tanner had secured the championship and his place in UFC history. That said, Edan Tanner was unable to defend his newly won title. At UFC 53 in 2005, he would face Rich Ace Franklin. Due to a series of cuts and swelling on Tanner's face, the ringside physician decided to stop the fight in the third round, thus making Ace the fourth man to hold the UFC Middleweight Championship. Edan Tanner's run as the division's top dog ended on the 119th day. Number 4. Rich Franklin Rich Ace. Franklin is arguably the UFC middleweight division's first big star. His marketable appearance and skills in the ring helped make him a favorite among many early fans. The Cincinnati-born schoolteacher turned pro fighter was the first man to hold the middleweight crown for an extended period. Franklin defeated several legends of the sport during his illustrious career, including Ken Shamrock, Vanderlei Silva, and Chuck Liddell. As champion, Ace became the first man to defend the title multiple times, having done so against Nate Quarry and David Lasso, respectively. In August of 2007, at UFC 77, the Ohio native collided with another legend, Anderson the Spider Silva. While Silva's next-level striking was more than enough to dethrone the champ, Franklin did manage to hang on to the belt for an impressive 497 days. Number 5. Anderson Silva. Anderson the Spider Silva is widely considered one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. While his status as MMA's GOAT is debatable, he is by far the most accomplished middleweight champion the UFC has ever seen. Of course, even the greatest streaks must come to an end. In Silva's case, his remarkable championship run was halted by New York's own Chris Weidman. At UFC 162 in 2013, Weidman shocked the world by knocking out the champ in the second round, becoming the sixth man to hold the gold. When it was all said and done, Anderson Silva had been the middleweight king for 2,457 days, thus making him the longest reigning champion in UFC history. Number 6. Chris Weidman. After ending Anderson Silva's legendary title reign, the All-American Chris Weidman had become one of the UFC's biggest stars. The Long Islander was able to defeat Silva for a second time, albeit due to a gruesome injury, to solidify his status as champion. With the Spider in the rearview, Weidman would prove to be a worthy champion in his own right by defeating big-name challengers in Lyoto Machida and Vitor Belfort. In December of 2015 at UFC 194, the All-American would put his title on the line against former Strikeforce champ Luke Rockhold. The bout was fairly competitive in the early going, but the well-rounded Rockhold managed to take over in the fourth round and secure a TKO victory. Number 7. Luke Rockhold Santa Cruz. California's Luke Rockhold is a talented fighter who seemingly excelled at every facet of mixed martial arts. An excellent grappler who could strike with the best of them, Rockhold appeared to have all the tools to put together a lengthy title reign. His signature win list includes names like Lyoto Machida, Jaquer Sosa, and Michael Bisping. Of course, it would be one of the previously mentioned fighters, Michael Bisping, who would ultimately end Rockhold's championship run. At UFC 199, the California native was set to make his first title defense against the popular Brit. Rockhold was initially supposed to rematch Weidman, but when the All-American stepped out due to injury, in stepped Michael Bisping. Given that the champ had already beaten Bisping in fairly convincing fashion roughly a year and a half earlier, most pundits expected a similar result. However, on the evening in June 2016, Bisping stunned the MMA world by knocking out his rival in the very first round. Luke Rockhold's seemingly promising title run lasted just 175 days. Number 8. Michael Bisping. Michael the Count Bisping spent a good portion of his UFC career on the verge of title contention, but fell just short of getting his shot at the gold on multiple occasions. When the former Ultimate Fighter winner finally got his chance by stepping in as a last-minute replacement at UFC 199, he made the most of it. Prior to dethroning Rockhold, the Count had won 3 in a row, which included a victory over Anderson Silva in London. During his title run, the future Hall of Famer got a chance to avenge a loss to Dan Henderson at UFC 204 by picking a hard-fought decision victory in a fight of the night winner. Number 9. Georges St Pierre. Much like Anderson Silva, Georges St Pierre is widely considered one of the best fighters to set foot in a UFC octagon. That said, the Canadian star's middleweight title reign wasn't anywhere near as impressive as his run at welterweight. After submitting Bisping to join the list of fighters who have held titles in multiple divisions, St Pierre decided to vacate the middleweight strap due to a condition known as ulcerative colitis and eventually retire. While St Pierre is regarded as the greatest welterweight champion of all time, he was middleweight king for only 33 days, making him the shortest reigning title holder in the divisions. Number 10. Robert Whittaker. In July of 2017, Robert the Reaper Whittaker defeated Yoel Romero for the interim title in a Fight of the Year contender at UFC 213. As such, when St Pierre vacated the title, the proud Aussie was promoted to the undisputed champion. After his first win over Romero, the Ultimate Fighter winner had won 8 in a row, including victories over Jaquer Souza and Derek Brunson. At last, Whittaker would have the opportunity to defend his title in front of his own country at UFC 243 in October 2019. The MMA gods were obviously not in the Reaper's favor that night. Late in the second round, Israel Adesanya, his opponent and the interim champion, would win via knockout. For 660 days, Robert Whittaker was the unchallenged middleweight champion. Kindly let me know if you liked the video by giving it a like and subscribing to our channel. Aside from that, we sincerely appreciate your viewing and hope to see you on the next one.